trying to get as close to customers as possible. And no, it's not just because I'm lonely. Let's get to it. Welcome. Another fabulous episode of IBF On Demand. I'm your collaborative and resourceful host, Eric Wilson. You can find me at eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. Thanks for the follows, the subscribe. Obviously, follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you get this podcast. Follow the IBF On Demand LinkedIn channel. Just follow anytime you see my name with something, follow it. That's all I'm asking. And while you're at it, send me some emails and comments back as well. Love the engagement. I want to thank our sponsor, Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. Thank you, Arkiva, the sponsor. There's a lot coming up. We're going to be in March for St. Patty's Day or maybe St. Renee Day. I'm going to be in Chicago watching the river turn green and doing a demand planning boot camp and masterclass. So check that out at ibf.org. Also in April, we're going to be in Scottsdale. Finally figured out where we're going to be in April. We're going to be in Scottsdale. It's a supply and demand analytics conference. We usually did the predictive analytics conference in New Orleans. We're actually moving that out to Scottsdale this year in April. You can still get your seat for that. There's going to be a lot of great subject matter experts and talking about supply, demand. We even throw in some S&op and a lot about analytics is what we're going to be talking about. The year is 1990, way back in the 1900s. We know that the further you are away from demand, the more distortion you have in that signal. So the worse the forecast is. So we want to try to get as close to true demand as possible. And everyone's talking about the bullwhip effect. And it's still bad, even post-pandemic. And we understand we need to manage the flow of goods, but also the flow of information to help minimize the bullwhip effect. We also see the rise of technology. Yeah, we had technology in the 1900s. It wasn't that long ago. And we had the new ERP systems and new advanced planning systems and new ways of storing data. So, because of that, CPFR became the newest buzzwords back in the early 1990s. Collaborative planning and forecast replenishment. CPFR, I said collaborative planning and forecast replenishment, is a collaborative process where retailers, manufacturers, suppliers, they align, they collaborate on planning, usually demand planning, business forecasting, and replenishment strategies. They try to connect as many dots as possible between your customer and you. Originally, it was developed to reduce inefficiencies that caused by really siloed type plannings, especially between one organization or enterprise and another. It helped really to try to improve the forecast is really what it had. And IBF, been around for 40 some years, really was at the forefront and had a lot of great articles and did a lot of information. Matter of fact, one of the first articles about CPFR was General Motors. They introduced the process in the early 2000s, and there was a great article in the Journal of Business Forecasting even early on about that. Some of the early history that you see beyond just the IBF and a lot of the body of knowledge it has on CPFR was in the 1998, it was formalized by the Voluntary Inter-Industry Commerce Standards, VIX. It was a fancy association that really trademarked the name and formalized the process. When they formalized the process and put a trademark on it, other people wanted to use it. So Gartner in the early 2000s developed their own process, or actually just rebranded the process and called it Demand Driven Value Network. A lot of the same principles and same concepts with a new name. Well, since then, Walmart's really latched on to CPFR, put a lot of people in Bentonville to the process, but unfortunately, they've kind of like destroyed the term and made it purely more order management and just the replenishment part of it, and really forgot about the collaborative part of it and the planning part of it, and not as much forecasting. So it's really R heavy. That's what we really saw today. At the same time, we still see relevance. We still see an importance. And the original principles that it was founded on, what it was originally intended to do, collaborative, planning, forecast, and really operational replenishment and other aspects as well, connecting as many dots as possible, we still see relevant. There may be some differences, but we still see relevance. We're going to jump into that today. I have a great guest. Viktoriia is a demand planning expert, speaker, sales and operations implementation, over 10 years developing demand planning in medium and large size companies, implementations of CPFR, collaborative planning and forecast replenishment, with key customers and suppliers. She has experience in this with great brands like Mercedes-Benz and others. She's currently does some consulting on her own and a lecturer at the University of Economics. Please help me welcome Viktoriia. So welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you on. I've been looking forward to this.
And thank you for the invitation. I'm also excited to be here and talk to you today.
Yeah, I think we first crossed in Germany, thanks to Sven and conference there, and then you came to Amsterdam, and I was really impressed with what you were saying and what you're doing in the field, and wanted to bring those insights to my audience, and I'm really looking forward to what you're going to have to share today.
Indeed, and it was a great discussion about many topic in demand planning.
Exactly. So, and then some good food too. So, which is always good at conferences. Well, CPFR, Collaborative Planning Forecast Replenishment, is something I know you're passionate about. You talk very well about it as well. Now, it's been around for a couple of decades. My first question here to the audience is it still important today in supply chain management and business?
And my answer will be absolutely yes. So, today's markets are unpredictable like the waves in the ocean, and even the best forecast can be challenged. So, we have to adapt all the time to this fast paced business environment. And companies have to work closely with key customers and suppliers. And this is where CPFR comes in. So it's like opening a black box when the customer share with suppliers its forecast. And what's more important, relevant information about changes on the market. So we need to stay informed about changes. And CPFR is crucial because it helped to reduce situation with stockouts and overstocking. It reduced forecasting errors. This is what we all in demand planning want to have. It leads to improved customer satisfaction, and it makes the whole supply chain efficient. And I mean the whole supply chain from raw material to the end customer.
And I'm sold. I think definitely, okay, I want CPFR. I think most companies want CPFR after they heard your introduction there. So then the next thing would be for companies, what do they need to consider when they're starting a CPFR or any type of collaborative process externally outside of their own four walls, what you're talking about?
So, first of all, there is a need to build a trust in the process because company need to trust each other. You need also to gain the trust and support from senior leadership, and this is the foundation. Secondly, it is important why this collaborative process is beneficial. So, what are the benefits from this collaboration? Which problem the company want to solve with this collaboration? Like, if some items are constantly not available over the time, then maybe it makes sense to start collaboration with supplier. Or if the forecast is constantly spiky, then maybe it makes sense to collaborate with key customers to prepare your operation in advance. And here is also is important right in the start to define um, to select the focus, like what are the customer you want to work with. So it should be probably a key customer which has a significant impact on the total volume, on the total demand. um, which items do you want to focus on? Maybe will be a range of items, for example, with a high value, because if you want to keep them on stock, it will increase the stock value. Or it can be an item with a low frequency, so you want to be prepared for the next order. Or to select this item for MTO, make the order, can be too risky because of long lead time or whatever. Or it can be in items where there is only few customers behind them, and changes in one customer demand can have a significant impact on total demand.
You don't have to do it with every customer and every item. You can be selective about the customers you're bringing into it, or even the items that you're actually bringing into a CPFR process.
Exactly. So I'm not saying it's to ask for replenishment forecast at all customer and then put it together. No, this is not how it works. It's about gain information from key customer which have a significant impact on your total demand.
What I hear then is you got your end user, your key customer, or the customer you decide. And generally, from what I know about CPFR and my experience, I've actually done a few as well. You're bringing in scanner data or some type of point of sale data or some type of external data into the process. You're bringing it in. You're procuring or you're manufacturing that product and having it either through some vendor managed inventory or positioning the inventory at a certain place to have everything kind of collaborate, replenishment, forecast. It's all in the words, CPFR. That said, is this only for consumer goods companies then? I mean, is there a difference between what CPFR looks like in different industries and for different types of organizations?
There is a difference, of course, and I would say one case will completely differs from another case. Um, like for example, in my work, I was working with manufacturers, and I was focusing on sharing replenishment forecast. There are, of course, several reasons behind that. First of all, because it's easy to start replenishment forecast. So how usually the situation looks like without CPFR, if I need some information from customers demand, about customers demand, I'm asking my sales team ask procurement team from customer, and procurement ask their demand planning team. So I thought, why we shouldn't make this way easier, shorter, and faster? So I just asked replenishment forecast for my items from customers demand planning department, and they send them to me. It's easy to start even without any data integration. And another reason is, so I'm based in Europe. We are not really working with POS data. So what does it mean for CPFR? Or if data collected for sales prediction will be used, for example, for marketing purpose, it can be an issue.
But I know in Europe, there is issues in data collection opposed to other areas. I mean, you have the General Data Protection Regulation, which you've talked about, the Charter for Fundamental Rights of the European Union, which you spoke about as well. I mean, so there's a lot of data privacy in Europe that's protected by regulatory. How do those things make it more challenging then to do CPFR?
At the beginning, when the company starts collaboration here in Europe, we have to think which data we are allowed to use for sharing. Sharing customer data, that can be an issue. So, the example, if CPFR involves is not allowed, or if we want to share this some data with companies outside of European Union, for example, America or Asia, it can be an issue. So it's not allowed. Or if data collected for sales purposes will be used for marketing campaign, it can be also an issue. So sometimes it makes sense to underside the contract and ensure that the data will be used for selected purposes. But it's not so bad. We can use business data like inventory levels or replenishment forecast or any order sales prediction. This is allowed. And this is basically what we are using.
So main thing is protect consumers and consumer data for privacy. Obviously, that's the most protected data that's more difficult sometimes to get and utilize. But other types of data, you can still get the forecast from the customer. You still get inventory, replenishment levels, things of that sort. You can still access. That's what I'm hearing?
Yes, exactly. This is what we are doing. We never sharing consumer data. It still remain inside of the company, but we can share like sales data or data on aggregated level.
And the other thing I heard is you can't share really data with people in the U.S. because it's just the wild, wild west out here. And getting data from the U.S. because it's the same consumer protection, you can't really bring data in because you don't have regulatory oversight of that then as well. So really, is it a country by country type of where you can bring some data in from some other data, some others? So do you really have to country by country, incident by incident, really what you can and can't get? Is that what it is?
My true answer will be it depends.
I love
So
that answer.
sometimes there is a global company with citizens in the European Union, but they are still working in Asia and America and somewhere else. But sometimes there is a company purely in European Union, so maybe sharing information with company in Asia will be not allowed, but it also has to be overlooked because sometimes it will be a contract based agreement and that can be allowed.
With the limitations then on some of the consumer data because of the GDPR and the CFR, we love our acronyms in this business. Because of some of those, privacy concerns, can you still get to understanding consumer preferences, understanding, market dynamics? Can you still get to that type of information with a CPFR, or are you more supply focused on the planning and replenishment side of things?
We still can use aggregated data and detect the trends, for example, or what I prefer to use replenishment forecast from customers. So using their replenishment forecast will help me to adjust forecast for my company. To answer your question, we still can see the trend on the market. We still are on using the same information from the market, and basically information is available. Maybe we are sharing not in the same way like in America, but we are still working on trend, working with the customer, and seeing the same picture.
So besides point of sale data, POS type data, and scanner data, is there, I know you work with a lot of companies, you got a lot of experience then as well. is there other types of like third party data that's where you're talking about the aggregated data that really, will sample size and develop kind of an industry trends and market trends from a third party like a Nielsen or something of that sort? Or is there other external data that you're accessing besides the point of sale data that you find useful in collaborative planning and forecast replenishment?
Of course, we are trying to be informed as much as possible, uh, using third-party data, and applying this trend on our forecast. Like if we are seeing the clear downgoing trend for, let's say, automotive market, maybe uh, why do not apply this trend? Or if we are seeing the trend going up in such countries like Poland, then it makes sense to apply this trend.
So, what are the biggest challenges companies face, Lori, when implementing, CPFR process or working externally?
Well, in my opinion, the biggest challenge comes not from legacy point. It's also not from data integration. In my personal opinion, this is more about data quality. And here I speak about simply questions like um, SKU numbers, descriptive data, successor predecessors, duplicates, sometimes lost sales data. And that this data should be as accurate as possible. And this is unfortunately not always the case. What makes a big challenge for the whole process.
So, we only got time probably for one more question. So, to kind of wrap things up, the people up there out there really wanting to get started now, and they've clicked on this podcast because it had CPFR and some clickbait type of title to it. What would be your recommendation? Very basic, first one or two, three steps they should take. The next steps they should take to go get started in that journey. What would be the basic steps they need to take next?
I would say just do it, just start it, and start it with the pilot. My personal recommendation to start with the pilot, because and measure, of course, forecast value add after the first, second, third step, because forecast value add will show you, will demonstrate it if the pilot is successful or not, if it is beneficial or not. And to start with the pilot, it's a very safety step. So you are starting with the pilot, and if it is successful, if you see an improvement in your forecast, um, then this pilot will be a reference number for the next step. It will show you the benefit before scaling. But if pilot fails, it will remain just a pilot. So that was a small step, and don't worry about that. Some projects fail, and this is okay. But even if it is fail, it makes sense to maybe refine the collaboration, maybe review the scope, or to find the needed information you want to ask to. Here, I want to tell one example. Once I had collaboration with key customer, and after several months, I saw that the replenishment forecast they share with me and the order placed are completely different. So I decided, of course, to find the root cause, and the reason behind it was the company decided to change inventory strategy, and they adjusted service level. So based on new service level, they become overstock. So I just request the list of SKUs at which they had excessive stock in order to reduce my forecast, in order not to get overstocked at my company. So what I want to say with this story, this is all about collaboration and sharing relevant information. It's still about sharing information.
That's a great way to end it and great advice to really get started. So I want to thank you very much. You've been a great guest, and I'm glad we were able to make this work despite some technical issues the audience didn't know about at the very beginning. So I'm glad we were able to make this work and able to share your insights.
And I thank you. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
And I'll see you at a conference in Europe or maybe even in the US in the future.
In person.
In person. So I'll see you soon. The one thing I hope you got out of that is CPFR is truly a journey. It's an iterative process. She talked about really starting small, a pilot, starting with individual brands or products and really building from that. Start small, then scale. That was one of the last things she said was as her advice. Begin with a pilot, collaborate between you and one retailer, you and one key account, you and one supplier even. This works the other direction as well. Align then on your business goals and objectives. If you're working with a trading partner, ensure that you have the same strategy, that you're in it for those same or similar reasons, or at least you both understand why you're in it and what you want to get out of it. Really define your playing field that you're working with it. So there's something in it, make it a win-win. There's something in it for both of you. Next, prioritize the collaboration part. I mean, it's the first letter in the acronym. Prioritize collaboration. It's in the name. CPFR is not just about systems. It's not about technology. She mentioned that as well. She alluded to that, even said you can start doing it without really a lot of data. It's about trust. It's about alignment. It's about a shared goal. It's then regular check-ins, visibility to both enterprises' operations, forecast, what they want to get out of things. And that really brings us next thing. If you want to create that visibility, you want to create that transparency, if you've developed shared strategies so you understand the playing field of what both of you want to get out of it, measure that. Measure those things. Use clear KPIs, whether it be forecast accuracy, on time in full, stock out, service level, inventory levels, customer satisfaction, cost, whatever it may be. Find the right KPIs to measure what you both want to get out of it. And you're measuring both what you want to get out of it. And then track that continuously over time and then iterate. It's the PDCA, plan, do, check, act, or adjust. You continuously, you come together as strategies, you plan it, you're doing it, you're checking, and then you continually iterate or adjust and act as you go through. And the last thing is, yes, it's all about the people. It's all about the process. There is a technology component ultimately to this. In the 1990s, one of the reasons it gained popularity is because of new ERP systems, new way of storing data. Guess what? There are some new technologies today. Leverage technology, but leverage it wisely. Invest in demand planning tools like Arkiva or other systems out there. Look at ways you can share data more efficiently. And then, yes, I'm going to use the acronym AI, trying to find ways that AI can drive better information, take latency out of the system, can build better collaboration, embed augmented or types of AI-driven parts of your supply chain and value chain so you can automate responses. Find ways that technology can help take latency out, improve the signal, or ways you can find and plan better. Well, that's a wrap. I'm going to go see if I can find anyone else that wants to talk to me. My name is Eric. You can find me at eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. Thank you, Arkiva. I said technology is a key part. Check out Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. Check them out then as well. We're going to be in March for St. Renee's Day or St. Patty's Day in Chicago. Check that out. It's a demand planning and masterclass or boot camp. In April is a supply and demand analytics conference. AI, I'm sure, is going to come up there as well. It's going to be in Scottsdale. Check out both those and many other things we're going to do at ibf.org. And remember, no matter who you're collaborating with, it's always a good idea. And don't forget, wash your hands.